Yes, indeed. Knows what's going on. Hi, I'm Paul Sugarman, and oh, it's not yet live, so now I've what done. Okay. Hi, I'm Paul Sugarman, and this is the Instant Shakespeare Company. And today we're celebrating Chekhov, the great Russian writer Anton Chekhov, because, well, by various calendars, they have different ways of when his birthday was from because it was basically they went from the old calendar to the new calendar from the time he was born in 1860 to when he died in 1904. But generally, January 29th is sort of observed as his birthday. And so this would be, I mean, the 164th anniversary of his birth. And he was, I think, just such a wonderful writer, such an important writer in so many ways, sort of in terms of Russia, sort of giving a view of the society that, I mean, was, I mean, slightly down the road going to have a revolution, and but also because he talked so much about how people are and their hopes and dreams that his work I think is just really wonderful. I mean, a lot of people really love his short stories. But I think that his real masterpieces are his plays, and that they're the sort of four major plays that are the most well known. I mean, Seagull, Uncle Vanya, the Three Sisters, and the Cherry Orchard, and which are great plays, and so it's also so interesting with the Seagull how important it was in terms of the development of Stanislavski and the Moscow Art Theater. I mean, just in sort of checking, I hadn't realized it was in their very first season. It was like the fourth show they did, and it was their first real huge success.
It
Uh,
saved the theatre.
Absolutely, and this was
And
this.
and 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 Stanislavski hated it. It was Nemirov Danchenko who, after the disaster in St. Petersburg, when the audience went out laughing and Chekhov ended up walking down the sub-zero streets of St. Petersburg, swearing he would never write another play, that excuse me, Nemirov Danchenko started nagging him to persuade him to let them do it as one of the first plays in the Moscow Arts Theatre. But Stanislavski didn't think it was up to much,
Mhm.
and yet it wowed everybody.
Yeah, it really did. And actually, even I mean, and the symbol of the seagull that was used for it is still the symbol of the Moscow Art Theater. That
Oh,
if you go on their website, they still have that seagull insignia, which it's like you have to sort of, oh, that's a seagull. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so and I think that one of the things I was talking a little earlier about is that I think that we've gotten a lot of really great filmed Shakespeare that's happened. I mean, largely sort of thanks to Kenneth Branagh with the Henry V, and that
Oh,
there's been
he's great. I love
so
him.
so many great, and it's great to see different things. I mean, with Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet and Julie Taymor's films, and so I think
The
that
Royal Shakespeare Company too. I've seen some of their films where they film the productions, and they're really, really marvelous. They
yeah.
with Falstaff, just wonderful.
And but I mean I think in terms of also with films that Shakespeare's much able to reach sort of a popular mass audience still. I mean, which was why he worked in his day as well, and still does. But I mean, the Chekhov, it's a little more challenging and difficult. I think that's so that's another reason why I want to sort of celebrate Chekhov, and hopefully we can do more Chekhov readings and yeah, that there'll be more Chekhov productions. So what we're going to do, the basic sort of format, we're going to get into this by sort of reading an act from the Cherry Orchard, and discussing about the way that this is different from the sort of version that we most often have, because even I've been looking at a book of the writings between Chekhov and his wife, who is Olga Nipper, who was the leading actress of the Moscow Art Theater, and talking about the Cherry Orchard. And even this was also like, well, I mean, in Chekhov's last theater, and there was just so many fights between him and Stanislavski. They really disagreed very much about it. I mean, when Chekhov originally came, he wanted Stanislavski to play Lepakin, who he really saw as the protagonist, because, I mean, the character from a working class background who Chekhov identified with, as opposed to Stanislavski, who came from a very rich family, who totally identified with Gaev, and that's who he played. And so there was that conflict, and one of the things that happened because of that was that the second act was cut down substantially by Stanislavski. So we're going to read a version of this, of sort of his that Chekhov had originally written. So
I might actually, if I get to scanning it, I might send you Calderon's translation. Act 2 starts with the governess, Charlotte, in his version.
yeah, I think that is I think
the post-Stanislavski one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the Stanislavski one, because pretty much all of the things, I mean, this is, I don't have.
We can worry about it later, Paul.
Yeah, no, but one of the things was that there was I mean, because it then, after all of the fights with it, it then became a great success. The Cherry Orchard was a big success for Stanislavski and Chekhov, and so that was the version that got translated. And it was actually David Magershak who wrote a book, Chekhov the Dramatist, where he said, well, these were the scenes the way it was originally written. And when my father had directed at a college where he taught, and at two colleges where he taught, actually, he did his version of the Cherry Orchard, which included this version of Act 2, because this reflected what Chekhov, how Chekhov had originally intended it. Yeah. And this isn't this new series. This is actually the Seagull from the series, but it's put out by TCG, which is just such a wonderful resource. The Theater Communications Group, and publishes so many wonderful translations of foreign works, books about theater, Freeing Shakespeare's Voice by Kristen Linklater, lots of great things. And so this is translated, and adapted by Richard Nelson, and then translated from the Russian by Richard Nelson, Richard Pavir, and Larissa Volonsky. Okay, now, one of the challenges with Chekhov, a challenge which I fail in occasionally, is pronouncing the names. Because because that's also one of the things that's very confusing when you're reading a Chekhov play, in that, like Trofimov, and then Petya. Who's this Petya they're talking about? It's the same person, because they have all of these, much more complicated names and different sorts of things, which is just something that was part of the Russian way of understanding things. And that is, I think, one of the things that's challenging for us. Angus, since you've been in some, just sort of some of the general sorts of things to look out for, or tips that you found in terms of pronouncing the names, I think it's like usually that it's a lot of times in the third syllable that you want to emphasize.
So Madame Ranevskaya, it's Madame Ranevskaya. You hit the skaya at the end. I mean, it's written as Ranevsky often, but the ya is ya. But yeah, if there are multiple, Trofimov, the second last syllable is usually what you hit.
Yeah. Wait, I'm doing a Chekhov reading in a few minutes, so I have to get off.
Yeah. So that's the safe one. I mean, I played Serebriakov lots of three times now, I think. And then I realized that it's actually Serebriakov.
Rabiakov.
Serebriakov.
Yeah, so.
birthday, which is
Yeah,
January 29th.
yeah.
So, all right.
I love you. Bye-bye.
The other problem you've got is that Chekhov used music so much in these things. And the music was, and his references to music was geared to an audience that knew all the songs. And a lot of the music now, we don't know what the reference is all about because that particular opera composer has vanished completely from the record, and we don't have them anymore. I can't remember which play it is. One of them, he picks up a diary and makes some comment about it and a page in it, and that's actually a reference to one of his mistresses who had sent him a note attached to her latest book of poems referencing a page. So he turned it round and threw it back at her so that she would know to stay away. So there's all these hidden things in Chekhov that you don't understand.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, because that is the challenge with getting things from a different time and a different thing, and also the importance of translation. And I think as that one of the problems with Chekhov is like, oh, a depressing Russian play. You know, I mean, because there's a lot of depressing things in a lot of the plays, but it's also, I mean, there's the characters have so much joy and life as well.
I've said this before, I think, that there was a production that the great Russian film director did, Mikhalkov, of something about a player piano. And it's based on some earlier Chekhov fragments. I was told by a Russian I knew that was the last thing that Mikhalkov ever did strictly for a Russian audience. And it's worth getting a hold of the DVD and watching it, because you then really see how the Russians viewed Chekhov and how they viewed Russian drama. I mean, they're falling down. It's almost farcical and slapstick in places where you wouldn't expect it. It just spirals out of control and people fall over. One of the guys who's upset because the love of his life has spurned him, and he goes rushing out, jumps off a cliff and lands in the river. And when she's been following him, she gets there and she looks over, and he's only about 6 foot down in the river, and he's only up to his knees in the water. And you look at it and you think, oh, for God's sake. But that's a good play.
Kind of like Ibsen, he throws everybody off a mountain.
Yeah. No, but Chekhov is quite tragic.
But he's not funny, but everybody has to go down. Right?
Yeah. I always think that Lady from the Sea is Ibsen's Chekhov-like play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sort of white tragedy, whereas all the rest of his plays are bleak and dark.
Indeed. Yeah. All right. So let's so do we Steve, did you get my email? Will you be able to would you be able to do Yasha?
Yasha, and we're doing Act 2?
Act 2, starting on page 73.
Excellent.
And
if in doubt, third syllable.
Yeah, that's a good thing. All right, so let's. I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. We should introduce all of us. My name's Paul Sugarman. I'm the founder of the Instant Shakespeare Company, and in this character scene, I'll be reading Trofimov, Petya. And so if I'll just introduce you, and then you can say what you're doing. And Angus, I think I would also like you to do Epihadov as well as Fears. If you could.
Epihadov, right, Clark. Yep.
Okay, so, and Angus?
Angus Hepburn from London, reading Epihadov, and the old servant, Fierce, who has the best last line of any play anywhere.
Okay, and Denise?
Denise Hurd of New York. I'm reading Anya and Charlotta.
Thank you. And Cynthia?
Yes, I'm Cynthia Huffman, also from New York, Lopatkin.
And Kitty? You're muted right now, Kitty.
Yes, I'm unmuted now. I'm reading Gaev, who is, I don't see him in the character list here.
He's there. I don't know why.
Not in the character list, but I know he's there later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jennifer?
I'm Jennifer Finger in Houston, Texas. I'm reading Dunyasha.
And Jackie?
Oh, I'm Jackie Margolis, and I'm from New York City. And in the Cherry Orchard, I'm reading Lubov Andreevna. And in the Seagull, I'm reading Paulina.
Great. Excellent. And Steve?
Yes, Steve Capra in New York reading Yasha.
Great. Excellent. So anyways, this is the Cherry Orchard was Chekhov's last play, and I really think it's a great play, and it's a play that he calls a comedy. Both the Seagull and the Cherry Orchard, in his descriptions of them, he called them comedies, which even, I mean, I think to the Cherry Orchard, that may have been part of his essential disagreement with Stanislavski, who, identifying with the ruling class and Gaev, really saw it as as a tragedy. But anyways, let's just look at this. This is I mean, I know it's sort of difficult to do this, to compare it to the other version that we're not doing, or the whole play, but I just think it's a chance to sort of explore it on its own. This was Act 2 of the play, as Chekhov had originally written it, and so we're going to do that, and I'll also be reading the stage directions, because I think it's helpful to set the scene. And just like with our normal reading, sort of when you're on stage and speaking, you can have your camera on and be unmuted, and then mute yourself and don't when you're off, because that's one of the things that really is that as one of my teachers and a really wonderful Chekhov actor, Jerry Heikkinen, sort of said about the difficulties of filming Chekhov, is that it's not just the speaker, it's the reactions of the people who are listening to them as well, because that's the way Chekhov wrote. Anyway, so let's just dive in and see where it takes us. Into the Cherry Orchard. Act 2, a field, an old lopsided, long abandoned chapel. Next to it, a well, big stones that apparently once used to be tombstones, and an old bench. You can see the road to Gaev's estate. To the side, some poplars hover darkly. The Cherry Orchard begins there. In the distance, a row of telegraph poles, and far away on the horizon, a big town is vaguely outlined, which can be seen only in very fine, clear weather. The sun will set soon. Yasha and Dunyasha sit on the bench. Epihodov stands by them. Trofimov and Anya go past them on their way from the house.
My great aunt lives alone. She's very rich. She doesn't like Mama. The first few days, it was hard for me to be there. She barely spoke to me. But then she softened, promised to send me money, gave me some for my and Charlotta's trip back. It's so eerie, so oppressive to feel you're a poor relation.
Looks like someone's here already, sitting. In that case, let's go further on.
I haven't been home for 3 weeks. How I miss it.
They exit.
Unto me is the world and its noise. Unto me are friends and foes. Oh, nice to play the mandolin.
It's a guitar, not a mandolin.
For a madman in love, it's a mandolin. So long as my heart knows the joys of ardent love in all its throes.
Bill, you're so lucky to have traveled abroad.
Oh, yes, of course. I cannot help but agree with you.
It's a known thing. Abroad, everything has long since been in full completeness.
That goes without saying.
I am a cultivated man. I read all sorts of learned books, but I simply cannot understand where things are heading and what, in fact, I want to go on living or to shoot myself. But in any case, as a matter of fact, I always carry a revolver with me. Here it is. As a matter of fact, regardless of other subjects, I must express about myself, by the way, that fate deals mercilessly with me, like a storm with a small boat. Supposing I'm mistaken, when then do I wake up this morning, for example, and see on my chest a spider of enormous proportions, this big? Or I pick up a jug of kvass so as to pour myself a drink, and there's something highly improper floating in it, like a cockroach. Have you read Buckle? I wish to trouble you, Avdyota Fyodorovna, with a couple of words.
Speak.
It would be desirable for us to be alone.
Very well. First bring me my little shawl. There by the cupboard. It's a bit damp here.
Oh, very well, miss. I'll bring it. Wonderful, miss. Now I know what to do with my revolver.
22 catastrophes. Stupid man, just between us.
God forbid he shoots himself. I've become anxious. I worry all the time. I was still a little girl when I was taken into the master's household. I'm unused to the simple life now. And look how white my hands are, like a young lady's. I've become so pampered, I'm afraid of everything. It's scary. And if you deceive me, Yasha, I don't know what will happen to me.
My cute little cucumber. Of course, every girl should remember herself, and what I dislike most of all is the girl who misbehaves. Oh, wilt thou grasp the stirrings of my soul?
I've fallen in love with you. You're cultivated. You can discuss everything.
Right, miss.
Miss, my opinion is this. If a girl loves somebody, it means she's immoral. It's nice to smoke a cigar in the open air. Oh, somebody's coming. It's the masters. Come here tonight when it's dark. Make sure you come. Go home as if you'd been swimming in the river. Here, take this pass, or else they'll see you and think we were here together. I can stand that.
That cigar has given me a headache.
Yasha stands by the chapel. Lyubov Andreevna, Gaev, and Lepakhin enter.
You've got to decide once and for all. Time is running out. The question is simple. Do you agree to lease the land for the construction of summer houses or do you not? Answer in one word, yes or no, just one word.
Who's been smoking disgusting cigars here? Oh.
You're muted.
They built the railroad and it's become convenient. Rode into town and had lunch. Yellow into the side. I'd like to go home first and play one game.
Oh, there's no rush.
Just one word. Give me an answer.
Oh, so?
Yesterday there was a lot of money, and today there's so little. My poor Varya saves money feeding everybody milk soup in the kitchen. The old folk get nothing but peas, and I waste money somehow. Seriously, oh, go on, scatter. Oh.
Well, I'll pick them up.
Be so kind, Yasha. And why did I go to this lunch? Your trashy restaurant with its music, with its tablecloth stinking of soap. Why drink so much, Lanya? Why eat so much? Why talk so much? Today in the restaurant, you talk too much again, and all besides the point about the 70s, about the decadence, and to whom? Talking to the waiters about the decadence?
Yes.
I'm incorrigible. That's obvious. Why are you constantly popping up in front of me?
Oh, just hearing your voice makes me laugh.
It's either me or him.
Away with you, Yasha. Go, 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 go.
I'm leaving right now.
Rich man Duraganov intends to buy your estate. They say he'll come to the auction in person.
Where did you hear that?
There was talk in the town.
Our aunt in Yaroslava has promised to send something, but when and how much, nobody knows.
How much will she send? 100,000? 200?
Well, 10,000, maybe 15, and be thankful for that.
Forgive me, but I have never met such scatterbrained people, such strange, unbusinesslike people as you two, my friends. I tell you in plain Russian that your estate is going to be sold, and it's as if you don't understand.
What are we to do? Teach us what to do.
I teach you every day. Every day I tell you one and the same thing. The cherry orchard and the land have got to be leased out for some houses. It has got to be now, as soon as possible. The auction is almost upon us. Understand that. Once you finally decide to have summer houses, you'll get as much money as you like, and then you're saved.
Oh, summer houses, summer people. Forgive me, but it's also banal.
I agree with you completely.
I'm going to weep or scream or fall down in a faint. I can't stand it. You worn me out. You old woman.
Who so?
Old woman.
Oh, don't leave. Stay with us, dear heart. I beg you. Maybe we'll think of something.
Varya and Carlotta Ivanovna pass by on the way from the house. Carlotta wears a man's visor cap and carries a gun. Virginia, could you read Varya? I don't think I got a Varya.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. I thought it was at 2:00. She's an intelligent and well-bred girl. Nothing can happen. But still, she should not be left alone with a young man. Supper's at 9:00, Charlotte Ivanovna. See that you're not late.
I don't want to eat.
That doesn't matter. Just be there. Look, they're sitting there on the bank.
Oh, don't leave, dear heart. It's more cheerful with you. I keep expecting something, as if the house is going to fall down on us.
Double into the corner. Crochet into the side.
We've sinned so much.
What kind of sins do you have?
They say I ate up my whole fortune in fruit drops.
Oh, my sins. I've always squandered money without stint, like a mad woman. And I married a man who did nothing but run up debts. My husband died from champagne. He drank terribly. And to my misfortune, I fell in love with another man, and I took up with him. And just then, this was my first punishment, a blow right on the head. Here in this very river, my boy drowned. And I went abroad for good, never to return, never to see this river. I shut my eyes, I fled, forgetting myself. And he followed after me, mercilessly, crudely. I bought a house near Menton because he fell ill there. And for 3 years, I got no rest day or night. The sick man wore me out. My soul dried up. And last year, once the cottage was sold for debts, I left for Paris. And there he fleeced me, abandoned me, took up with another woman. I tried to poison myself, so stupid, so shameful. And I suddenly felt drawn back to Russia, to my native land, to a little girl. Lord, have mercy, forgive me my sins. Don't punish me anymore. I received a letter from him this morning. This came today from Paris. He asked for my forgiveness, begs me to come back. It sounds like music somewhere.
It's our famous Jewish band, remember? 4 fiddles, a flute, and a double bass.
It still exists. We should get them to come here sometime. Arrange an evening.
I don't hear anything. The Germans for some ready cash will Frenchify a Rusky. What a play I saw last night in the theater. Very funny.
And most likely it wasn't funny at all. You shouldn't be looking at plays. You should take a look at yourself. Your life is so gray. You say so much that it's unnecessary.
That's true. Let's come right out with it. Our life is stupid. My father was a peasant, an imbecile. He understood nothing. He taught me nothing. He just got drunk and beat me, and always with a stick. And essentially, I'm the same sort of blockhead and imbecile. Never studied anything. My handwriting's vile. I'm ashamed to show people, like a pig's.
You ought to get married, my friend.
Yes, that's true.
Maybe to our Varya.
Yes.
I took her from simple folk. She works all day, and the main thing is she loves you. And you've liked her since way back.
Well, so. I'm willing.
I've been offered a post in the bank, 6,000 a year.
Have
Have
you
you heard? Have you heard?
What an idea, you.
Please put this on, sir. It's damp.
Oh, I'm sick of you, brother.
You left this morning without telling me.
Oh, have you aged, Faz?
If you please, Mom.
She says you've aged a lot.
Boy, I've lived a long time. They were trying to get me married before your father came into the world. When we got our freedom. I was already head valet. I didn't accept freedom then. I stayed with my masters. Oh, I remember everybody was glad. But what they were glad about, they didn't know themselves.
It was very nice in the old days. At least they had flogging.
Oh, sure enough. Peasants with the masters, masters with the peasants. And now it's all gone to pieces. You can't figure anything out.
Quiet, Fierce. I have to go to town tomorrow. They've promised to introduce me to a certain general who can lend me money on credit.
Nothing will come of it. And you won't pay the interest. Don't worry.
He's raving. There aren't any generals.
Trofimov, Anya, and Varya enter.
Look who's coming.
Mama's sitting there.
Oh, come here, my darlings. If you both only knew how I love you. Sit beside me here.
They all sit down.
Our eternal student always goes around with young ladies.
That's none of your business.
He'll be 50 soon, and he's still a student.
Quit your stupid jokes.
Why are you getting angry, you odd duck?
Just stop badgering me.
What do you think of me, if I may ask?
What I think is this, Amalai Alexeyevich. You're a rich man. You'll soon be a millionaire. As there is a need in the food chain for predators who devour everything in their path, so there's a need for you.
Petya, why don't you tell us about planets?
No, let's go on with yesterday's conversation.
About what?
The proud man.
Well, we talked for a long time yesterday, but we didn't come to any conclusion. According to you, there is something mystical about the proud man. Maybe in your own way, you're right. But if we talk simply, without frills, what is there to be proud of? Does it even make sense when man's physiological constitution is none too good, when the vast majority of men are coarse, ignorant, and profoundly unhappy? We must stop admiring ourselves. We must work.
You die anyway.
Who knows? And what does it mean to die? Maybe man has 100 senses, and death only kills off the 5 known to us, while the remaining 95 remain alive.
Oh, you're so intelligent, Petya.
Terribly.
The human race goes forward, perfecting its powers. One day, all that's beyond its reach now will become close, clear, but we must work. We must give all our strength to helping those who seek the truth. Here in Russia, very few are working right now. The vast majority of the intellectuals I know seek nothing, do nothing, and at the moment are unfit for work. They call themselves intellectuals, but they talk down to servants, treat peasants like animals, study poorly, read nothing serious, do precisely nothing. Their science is only talk, and they have little understanding of art. They're all serious. They all have stern faces. They all talk only about important things. They philosophize. And meanwhile, in front of their eyes, workers eat disgusting food, sleep without pillows, 30 or 40 to a room with bed bugs everywhere. Stench, darkness, moral filth, and all the nice talk is obviously aimed at distracting attention, our own and other people's. Show me where those day nurseries are that are talked about so much and so often. Where are the reading rooms? They're only written about in novels. In reality, there aren't any. There's only dirt, banality, barbarism. Serious faces scare me. I don't like them. Serious conversations scare me. Better to be quiet.
You know, I get up at 5 in the morning, work from morning till night, and I'm constantly dealing with money, my own and other people's. So I see what sort of people are around. You only need to start doing something to realize how few honest, decent people there are. Sometimes when I can't fall asleep, I think, Lord, you gave us vast forests, boundless fields, the deepest horizons, and we who live here should be real giants ourselves.
What do you need giants for? They're only good in fairy tales, otherwise they're frightening. Oh, there goes Epitikov.
Here goes Epikhodov.
Why is he living with us? He just keeps eating and drink tea all day long.
And makes plans to shoot himself.
Oh, well, I like Epitikov. When he talks about his catastrophes, he makes me laugh. Don't dismiss him, Valya.
It's impossible, Mama. We have to dismiss the scoundrel.
The sun has set, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Oh, nature, wondrous nature. You shine with eternal radiance, beauty, beautiful and indifferent. You whom we call mother, in yourself you combine being and death. You give life and you destroy.
Uncle dear.
At it again, Uncle.
Better double the yellow into the side.
I'll be quiet, I'll be quiet.
They all sit deep in thought, silence. Only fear's quiet muttering can be heard. Suddenly, there is a distant sound, as if from the sky, the sound of a breaking string dying away. Sad.
Oh, what was that?
I don't know. Somewhere far away in a mine, a bucket chain snapped. But somewhere very far away.
Maybe it was some bird, like a heron.
Or a barn owl.
It's unpleasant somehow.
It was the same before the catastrophe. The owl screeched and the samovar went on whistling.
Before what catastrophe?
Freedom.
You know what, my friends? Let's go. It's already evening. You have tears in your eyes. What is it, my girl?
Oh, I just do, Mama. It's nothing.
Somebody's coming. A passerby appears in a shabby white coat and an overcoat, slightly drunk. May I ask if I can go straight to the station from here?
You can, just down this road.
Much obliged to you. Splendid weather. Brother, my suffering brother, come down to the Volga, who's mourning. Mademoiselle, might a starving Russian have 30 kopecks? Varya cries out in fear.
For every outrage, there's decency.
Oh, here, take this. Never mind. I only have. Oh, here's a gold piece for you.
Oh, much obliged to you. Exits.
I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Oh, Mama, the people at home have nothing to eat, and you give him a gold piece?
What can you do with a fool like me? At home, I'll give you all I have. And Molay Alexeyevich, lend me some more.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. And we've just made you a match here, Varya. Congratulations.
You should joke about that, Mama.
Ophelia, get thee to a nunnery.
Oh, my hands are shaking. I haven't played billiards for so long.
Ophelia! O nymph, remember me in thy orisons.
Oh, let's go, ladies and gentlemen. It's nearly supper time.
You frightened me. My heart's pounding.
I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, on August 22nd, the cherry orchard will go up for sale. Think about it. Think.
Exit all but Trofimov and Anya.
Thanks to that man who frightened Varya, we're alone now.
Varya's afraid we'll up and fall in love with each other. With her narrow mind, she can't understand that we're higher than love, to go beyond the petty and illusory that keep us from being free and happy. That is the goal and meaning of our life. Forward, we go irrepressibly towards that bright star that shines there in the distance. Forward, don't lag behind, my friends.
How well you speak. It's wonderful here today.
Yes, the weather is astonishing.
Oh, what have you done to me, Petya? Why don't I love the cherry orchard the way I used to? I loved it so dearly. I thought there was no better place on earth than our orchard.
All Russia is our orchard. The earth is vast and beautiful. There are many marvelous places on it. Think, Anya, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and all your ancestors were serf owners, owners of human souls. Can it be that human beings don't look at you from every cherry, from every leaf, from every tree trunk of this orchard, that you don't hear their voices? To own living souls, it transform you all, those who lived before and those living now, so that your mother, you, your uncle, no longer notice that you are living on credit at the expense of others, at the expense of people you won't allow across your threshold. We're at least 200 years behind. We still have precisely nothing. No definite attitude toward the past. We only philosophize, complain of our anguish, or drink vodka. Yet it's so clear that to begin to live in the present, we must first atone for our past, be done with it. And we can only atone for it through suffering, only through extraordinary, relentless labor. Understand that, Anya.
For a long time now, the house we live in hasn't been ours, and I shall leave. I give you my word.
If you have the keys of the household, throw them down the well and walk away. Be free as the wind.
How well you put it.
Shh, somebody's coming. That Varya again. Outrageous.
Well, let's go to the river. It's nice there.
Let's go.
The moon will rise soon.
You blockhead.
Ah. Is that you, Fierce? What are you looking for?
Mistress lost her purse.
Well, here's a fan. The handkerchief smells of perfume. There's nothing else. Lyubov Andreevna constantly loses things. She's lost her life too. I don't have a real passport, Grandpa. I don't know how old I am, and I keep imagining I'm a young girl. Oh, I love you, my dear mister. Eins, zwei, drei. When I was little, my father and mother went around to fairs and gave performances, very good ones. And I did the salto mortale and various things like that. And when father and mother died, a German lady took me and began to teach me. Right. I grew up, then I went to be a governess, but where I'm from and who I am, I don't know. Who my parents were, whether they were even married. No. I don't know anything.
I was 20, or 5 and 20. And so we walked there, me and the deacon's son, and the cook, Vasily. And there was a man sitting on a stone, an unknown man, a stranger. I got scared for some reason and left. And then they up and killed him. He had money.
So, weiter.
Well, there was a trial, interrogations. They arrested them, and me too. I was in prison for about 2 years. Then it was all right. And they let me out. Oh, that was long ago. A man can't remember everything.
It's time for you to die, Grandpa.
Well, so we went there all together, then had to stop. Uncle jumped off the cart, took a sack, and inside there was another sack. He looked in and something inside went wiggle, wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle, huh?
There is the sound of someone walking down the road and softly playing the balalaika. The moon is rising. Somewhere by the poplars, Varya is looking for Anya and calling.
Anya! Anya! Where are you?
Curtain. Oh, thank you all. Thank you very much. That's really that was really nice. One of the big differences, as far as I just sort of briefly looking at it, I haven't gone into it, is that last little scene between Fears and Carlotta isn't really there, and Carlotta's speech is just stuck at the beginning of the act to Yasha and Epikhadov and Dunyasha, which it doesn't make any sense why she would be telling them, you know. So I think that's
yeah. There's a lot of reorganization in there, and it looks like George Calderon actually used the performed version of the Cherry Orchard.
Yeah, well, because I think for a long time that was what was available, you know. That's,
yeah.
God.
Well, I mean, but Calderon spent time in Moscow. I mean, one of the reasons that his translation of The Seagull is so good is that he saw it at the Moscow Arts Theatre. And it was said by his friends that when he came back from Russia, he looked more Russian than English by then.
Yeah. No, it's it's such a wonderful. I mean, the sense of like, and you really get the essence of what's happening in the play and what's going to happen in the play. It's like, yes, they're going to do nothing and they're going to lose the Cherry Orchard. I mean, Lepakin is there trying to present them with a way out, and they're just, well, no, that's so bad. But no, who wants to deal with that? You know, and which is, I mean, I think it's so good. And I think one of the other things that I was reading in the note to this translation was the idea that, so that Act Two then sort of ends with Anya and Trofimov at the end, their little bit. And so it's much more that it's like just sort of like a conventional romance between the two of them, as opposed to, I mean, with what it was just amazing. It's been a while since I've done this, and I was trying to get somebody else to read Trofimov, but I'm so glad I got to do it because I just love speeches. They're just
grab the good ones, Paul.
so rich and so great and so relevant to the conversations we're still having today, you know,
Oh, yeah.
at least 200 years behind the times, you know, and we just sort of think it's like, yeah, there would and I mean, calling out Lepakin, it's like, yes, well, just as there, yes, for as you successful capitalists, just as there's a need for predators, then I guess there's a need for you. but but yeah, so I mean, and I think that for me is one of the things I saw recently. The well, I guess a number of years back, not too many years back, the Roundabout did a production of The Cherry Orchard with Diane Lane, which was kind of nice because she played the little girl way back in a Lincoln Center production where Inez Worth had done it, and then she was playing Luba. And it also had John Glover as Gaev, Harold Perrineau as Lepakin, and Joel Grey as Fears. And it was the adaptation was by the guy who done The Humans. Steve Karam, I think. And it was really good, and it was really funny, you know. And there was a lot of humor in it, and I really thought that they got a lot of. They didn't get the critical recognition they deserve because people had this idea that Chekhov's got to be depressing. Yeah. So and
it's not.
No.
They
So
talk about all these.
From my perspective, I don't really study Chekhov that much. When I entered this with a fresh mind, I saw the humor immediately. I recognize it immediately. And I'm so glad because I don't have this feeling of, oh, Chekhov has to be doom and gloom. I also like the fact that you chose the second act because at the end, at the beginning, we know they're going to lose the orchid because of, you know, they're not quite where they should be. They've aged. They're not in the present, in the moment, what's happening now. But what I liked about the end dialogue between Trofimov and Anya was this new idea, this new thought of where the world and where the future was going to go. And that's what's so interesting about that because I saw not only just romance and everything, but I saw a new way of thinking about things that unfortunately Dubyov and just didn't get, you know, she didn't figure it out. It didn't happen for her. She, you know, and now she's going to lose the orchard because she can't change with the times.
Yeah.
But you've also got the standard Chekhovian theme. I mean, doesn't he do it in just about every play that some character says, oh, in 10 or 20 years from now, people will understand us and will see how we suffered. He keeps on pulling that line up. And I was reading somewhere that occasionally in some of his letters, he changed it to in 1,000 years' time. You know, I saw a production when I was at the Jean Cocteau. There was the other classical theatre type company that worked off St. Mark's Place. I can't remember what it was called in Manhattan. And they did a production of The Cherry Orchard. It was absolutely dire. And I remember sitting there at intermission, and there were these there's an old couple sitting next to me. I mean, I was old, but they were even older. And at one point, the lady turned to the gentleman and said, well, I know it's not their fault they can't do it. and when Fierce came at the end to say, oh, they've gone off and left me, I'm sure he hasn't wrapped up properly because I wasn't looking after him. Howls of laughter from the audience, which basically capped off a gruesome production. Calderon says that if you want to hit Chekhov, you start with the seagull because the seagull's simple. And you get through them and you go to the end and the complexity of the Cherry Orchard. You need the early Chekhovs to be able to understand really what he's saying in the last one because it's much more complex.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the problems that Stanislavski had with it. You know, that he didn't really get that, and I mean, it was also fortunately there was also because Stanislavski was performing in it, playing Gaev, and also I believe he co-directed it with Nemirovich Danchenko as well when they were still.
Yeah. But there's the other great story because Chekhov never saw their performance of The Seagull. he was ill in Yalta, and because they loved him and they wanted to show it to him, they set up a special performance for him in a warehouse in Moscow and invited him to come up. And he sat and saw it, muttering to himself all the time. And at the end, by that time, Stanislavski had been converted to the play and believed that the seagull was good, and went up to Chekhov with his Stanislavski's enormous ego and wanted to know, what did you think of my performance? And Chekhov just looked at him and said, you should have worn check trousers, and walked off. Stanislavski was incensed, what does he mean? But eventually he came to realize that if the character he created had got up in the morning and put on check trousers, he would have got Trigorin right.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, because of the relationship and with Stanislavski's relationship, I mean, because of course, it's one of the great stories of theater history. I mean, with the Moscow Art Theater, that Nemirovich Danchenko and Stanislavski, I mean, went to eat out for dinner and then they just kept talking for 18 hours and then decided to create the Moscow Art Theater. And, and they were, I mean, they did amazing stuff together, but I think later on it got to the point where they wouldn't talk to each other really, and also that with Stanislavski and Chekhov, how they were so essential to each other's successes, but personally had some difficulties.
I saw a wonderful
production
at the ART in Cambridge with Claire Bloom.
Ooh.
And the furniture was covered with white sheets, and no one was allowed to sit in it. Claire Bloom sat down on the floor in front of the furniture, and it gave the house a character. It was a character, this looming character, bigger than the people in the play. So it was farcical. It was just wonderful.
Mm.
But the thing is, all the characters treat the impending disaster as if it's just going out to buy a packet of peanuts or something, as somebody once said, the whole art of Chekhov is that your world is destroyed because somebody didn't pass you a cup of tea. And it's the little things in life that leave it, and you don't actually know it until much later that that's happening. It's quite fascinating.
Yes, and Chekhov wrote, while we're having dinner and wasting time, our destinies are being determined.
Yeah.
These little acts.
But I could understand something. The other day I went to a drawer and in it was Cugino's Italian restaurant, and the pasta dinners were like 12 and change. I went out with my friends the other night to Cugino's, and the cheapest pasta dinner was like $23. And within a couple of frame of years, that restaurant had doubled how much they were charging for pasta. So what happened with the Russian economy? These people had money, had serfs selling farms. The serfs got free after a while, had their own lands. They weren't bothering to hire them and sell the cherries so they could make. What happens? The money just disappeared. They dissipated. They didn't have enough money anymore. And everything, prices went up.
In the early 20th century, before the revolution, it was still the case that the nobility and the landowners, their wealth was not measured in terms of the size of their estate or how much money they had. It was how many serfs they had. And that was how you told you were dealing with you found out you were dealing with a really important person. He's got 700 serfs. Oh my goodness.
But at this point in time, the serfs had already been given some of the land, right?
Yeah.
Right. So therefore they were not working as much the rich people's land. They all wanted to some degree get paid for what? In other words, the cherries weren't being picked. That's what they're talking about. They used to make money by having cherries, barrels and barrels and barrels taken to market, and they had some income coming in. What they're doing now is all income's going out and nothing's coming in. And that's why they're all falling apart there and taking like menial jobs compared to where they think they're entitled to.
Yes, I think the serfs were worse off immediately after emancipation.
Uh-huh.
Like American
serfs are always worse off.
Yeah. The catastrophe after the catastrophe. Oh, what
Somebody's dragging their life force out of them. It just changes who's dragging it from time to time. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
Or they were probably given the least fertile land,
Yeah.
or not enough money to plant seeds or grow things or whatever. That
Or
was
tax, so that they had nothing left over.
Were they given land? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had allotments on the land of their owners. Their owners were told to give them allotments, but yes, taxation was crazy too. They started to be taxed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I read, I remember reading that the serfs were now entitled to some land because they had served the masters or something, and they were given plots for families who had been there many, many years. But of course, the taxation was a killer.
Mm.
hmm.
I have to reread some of the history again to really know what was going on. There's so much, so much hard to remember everything. Here and there, I've had a smattering, but I've forgotten a lot.
Yeah. So Jackie, you'd also said you wanted to read that other scene with Luba and
Yeah, if you want to, what was it, Act 3?
Yeah, it's page 114, I think.
Okay, sure. 114, let me find 114, 10, 12, 13. 12, 13, 14, 14. Okay. Oh, wait, let's see. Oh, when Varya exits, and I say to Petya, you can see she's unhappy. Don't tease her.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, don't tease her, Petya. You can see she's unhappy as it is.
She's so officious, always poking her nose into other people's business. She hasn't left Anya and me alone all summer for fear we might start a romance. What business is it of hers? Besides, I never gave any sign of it. I'm far from such banality. We're higher than love.
then I must be lower than love. Why isn't Leonard here? If only I knew whether the estate's been sold or not. This catastrophe seems so incredible to me. I somehow don't even know what to think. I'm at a loss. I could scream. I could do something stupid. Save me, Petya. Say something. Go on. Say something.
Does it make any difference whether the estate gets sold today or not? It was all finished long ago. There's no turning back. The path is overgrown. Calm down, my dear. Don't deceive yourself. You must face the truth at least once in your life.
What truth? You can see where truth is and where it isn't. You boldly resolve all the important questions. But isn't that because you're young? Because you haven't had time to suffer for a single one of your questions? You boldly look ahead, but isn't that because you don't see or expect anything terrible, because you still don't know life? You're bolder, more honest, more generous than we are. But let's leave that. Think about it. Show just a tiny bit of generosity. Have mercy on me. I was born here. My father and mother lived here. And my grandfather, I love this house. I can't conceive of my life without the cherry orchard. And if it's so necessary to sell it, then sell me along with it. Oh, my son drowned here. You're a good, kind man. Have pity on me.
You know, I sympathize with all my heart.
Yes, but couldn't you say it some other way? My soul is weighed down today. You can't imagine. It's noisy for me here. My soul trembles at every sound. I tremble all over, but I can't go to my room. I'm afraid to be alone in the silence. Oh, don't judge me, Petya. I love you like you're one of my own. I'd gladly have you marry Anya. I swear I would. Only you must study, darling. You must finish your education. You don't do anything. It's so strange, isn't it? And you should do something about your beard. Make it grow somehow. You're so funny.
I have no wish to be handsome.
Oh, it's a telegram from Paris. I get one every day, one yesterday, one today. The savage man is sick again. Things are going badly again. He asks my forgiveness, begs me to come back, and I really ought to go to Paris and be with him. You're making a stern face, Petya, but what am I to do, darling? What am I to do? He's ill, he's lonely, unhappy, and who will look after him? Who will keep him from making mistakes? Who will give him his medicine on time? And why hide it or keep silent? I love him. It's obvious. I love him. I love him. I love him. He's a millstone around my neck. He's dragging me down with him. But I love this stone and I can't live without it. Don't think of me, Petya. Don't say anything to me. Don't.
Forgive my frankness, but for God's sake, the man fleeced you.
No, you mustn't speak that way.
He's a scoundrel. You're the only one who doesn't know it. He's a petty scoundrel, a nothing.
You're 26 or 27 years old, but you're still a schoolboy.
So what if I am?
You should be a man. At your age, you should understand what it is to love. And you yourself should love. You should fall in love. Yes. You're not all that pure. You're just a squeamish, silly, eccentric little freak.
What is she saying?
I'm higher than love. You're not higher than love. You're simple as our Ferret here says, a blunderhead. Not to have a mistress at your age.
This is terrible. What is she saying? This is terrible. I can't stand it. I'm leaving. It's all over between us.
Oh, Petya, wait. Silly man, I was joking, Petya. Oh, my God. What was that?
Oh, Petya fell down the stairs.
What a funny way this is. Petya is, oh my God.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, he gets horrified, he runs out, and then boom, he falls down the stairs and everybody's laughing at him. So it's great. You know, one of the other things, one of the great sort of, also another thing from Jerry Hyken that he would talk about in terms of playwright, that the way the word playwright is made, and like it's right, W-R-I-G-H-T at the end, like the way a shipwright. I mean, these sort of ways of constructing things. And I think one of the things that's such a wonderful sort of theatrical moment in it is where they have the pause and then there's this really weird sound and they start talking about, I mean, how it happened after, I mean, and this sort of, that's just such a marvelous element. And also that one of the times when I was, when I did the winter workshop at Shakespeare and Company, when they had it at Wellesley, where they had like a lake. I don't know if it freezes over. I mean, this was a long time ago, so it probably freeze over more. But we would hear these really weird sounds like that, which I think is probably something that you would hear in Russia from like these frozen lakes. You know, when there's movement from it, it can make a really cool sound. So I just wanted to sort of make a note of that sound because I think it's just such a really great theatrical device, and also sort of what one possible explanation of what it could be.
That's pure Chekhov. If you look at Vanya on 42nd Street, which I think used the Mamet version of Uncle Vanya, and I saw the Mamet version at Classic Stage, I think in Manhattan. It totally appalling. Screwed up the beginning because in the middle of Act 2, when Serebriakov is sitting bemoaning his joint pains and trying to pretend it's not gout, it's rheumatism, it opens with the sound of tapping that supposedly goes round and round. And Classic Stage never did that, and he dropped it, and so did Vanya on 42nd Street. But that's again one of Chekhov's classic uses of indicative sound, because what the sound was, the houses were all up on stilts, and the guy in charge of looking after the house at night, once sun was down and sun was going down and everybody was going to bed, one of his jobs was to go round the house and tap on the stilts to scare the rats away.
Right.
And that was a very atmospheric sound that everybody was used to and everybody knew and everybody understood that, and dead silence and just tap, 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 tap.
In terms of this inexplicable sound, it's as if they're straining at the limits of their form, as if they're trying to get toward expressionism, but they don't quite have it. They're not ready for it.
Mm.
Mm.
I think one of the big ones is that always strikes me is in Three Sisters. After the lover has been shot, the doctor comes in and says, "Tarara boom die," something or other. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. And we can't play that anymore the way it needs to be played, because Tarara boom die, the song in Russian was very different and actually went Tarara boom die, sit on the curb I may, and my heart weeps because I am of no consequence. And the doctor gets through the first two lines and then he can't say the my heart weeps because I'm of no consequence. But the whole audience would know exactly what he was saying. And we can't convey that anymore.
Mm.
Because we've got an audience that doesn't have that background. So people do all sorts of silly things with it, you know.
Yeah, that is. It is.
Chekhov did not make it easy for future generations. He really didn't. There's the other. No, I told you that one. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I think this sort of the idea of that life is both like boring and tragic and comic and just within a few moments of each other, and that's
like we were talking about the guy falling down the stairs. It's the same as the thwarted lover rushing off into the distance, jumping off the cliff to kill himself and landing 6 foot down up to his knees in the river. And it's hysterically funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the great dramatic gesture which comes to nothing.
Yeah.
And there's a bit in the play a piano thing where they're all sitting down at dinner and one of the characters is singing a song on the guitar, and it's this tragic song about how he fell in love with a student, but then it all fell apart and he had to leave. Now, if we were doing it nowadays, we would start that happy and make it go sad. But the way he wrote it and the way Mikhalkov directed it, he starts off sad about how he fell in love, and then as it all starts to fall apart, he starts to see the humor in it and he starts to play it. You know, it's the reverse of what we would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's I mean with Chekhov, that he sort of does things very much in reality, but then challenges it and give him a new perspective. And so that's.
I mean, one of the problems I found with American Chekhovs is that so much of American theatre training is to encourage the young actor to look at every line in isolation and make the most of it that they can. And you can't do that with Chekhov because he creates arcs and you have to flow with them. And sometimes, I mean, a lot of what we did in Act 2 is just conversations with people on a park bench.
Mm-hmm.
And to them, it's not hugely dramatic and meaningful. It's only afterwards that you realize the import of what they're saying. And it's the audience who picks up the dramatic import. But the characters are living from that way. When I saw Ivo van Hove's Hedda Gabler with the New York Theatre Workshop, you could easily distinguish between the good actors and the American trained actors, the young ones, because they were playing every line as if it was earth-shattering. Whereas what Ivo van Hove, as a European director, was doing was taking a scene, setting a start point, setting an end point, setting a crisis in the middle, and you played that flow. And if you started putting huge levels of meaning into every line, you killed that flow, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, no, I think that is one of the challenges. I mean, with things with I mean, with Chekhov and also with Shakespeare, is that you can trust the text. You know,
Oh
that
yeah,
if
yeah.
your ideas about the text are a lot of times going to be less, are going to evolve as you just keep looking at it and seeing how it works. And I think that
I
was.
mean, they're as you mentioned, Paul. They're called playwrights for a good WRIGHT for a good reason. They're craftsmen.
Hmm.
Creating a good play is no different from creating a beautiful piece of furniture or some piece of art. You're writing it. You're putting it all together and building it, and that's an important difference. They're not just sitting down and chucking down words. They're playwrights.
Hmm. Absolutely. Does anybody else have any sort of comments they'd like to make on either the Cherry Orchard, the act we did, or any other sorts of Chekhov? Or should we move on to Act 4 of the Seagull?
If
Yeah, please.
yeah,
Yeah.
can I
No, I'm
just say?
sorry. I'm in Act 4 of the Seagull.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I see. Great. Thank you.
Can I just say that the history of this particular translation and the production, it's often thought that the first production of Chekhov in Britain was 1911 at the Aldwych, which used the Constance Garnett translation. They used the Constance Garnett translation because Chekhov was pissed off at George Calder and didn't like him and pressured the company that was handling it to use Constance Garnett's translation. And very much like the first production of The Seagull in St. Petersburg, where the audience fell about laughing and treated the whole thing as a joke, their production at the Aldwych was treated pretty much the same way. So that the first real production of Chekhov in the UK was done at the Royalty Theatre in Glasgow and was treated very differently because they used George Calderon's translation and he directed it. And also you had a very different theatrical setup or artistic setup in Glasgow. Glasgow was the base of Rennie Mackintosh, who the Russians considered to be one of the greatest Art Deco designers that they'd ever heard of. It was the home of the Glasgow eight women designers and painters. Margaret MacDonald was Rennie Mackintosh's partner. So there was a much more open-minded cultural attitude to theatre rather than the hidebound attitude to theatre that existed in London at the time. And it was a great success. They made a significant profit when they did it. And it took quite some time before decent translations and decent productions appeared in England to make people aware of how valuable Chekhov was. So that's where this comes. In fact, when it was the 150th anniversary of Chekhov's birth, early part of this century, the BBC actually took Calderon's translation of The Seagull and did a radio version of it on BBC Radio 3 and actually performed it. So there.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. It's good to know about this and to realize. It's also interesting. Constance Garnett was translated, was like the sort of first translator, I mean, major in terms of getting a lot of the Chekhov things done. And it's still sort of perpetrated today because all of her things are now in the public domain, which as Calderon's are as well now. But and so they're things, but she wasn't as good. There's actually a play that when Christopher Durang and Albert Inarritu were at Yale, they wrote this play called The Idiot's Karamazov, which is basically sort of taking the writings of Dostoevsky and Chekhov and having sort of as the narrator Constance Garnett. and who sort of totally like misunderstands everything that's going on. So that's sort of the one of the central jokes of this play, that they did at college, and actually it was Meryl Streep who played Constance Garnett when they did it initially. So just to sort of
Well, the problem was Constance Garnett was not a theatre person. She had no background in theatre, and she didn't know what was necessary. Calderon was an actor and a director and linguist. He was a polymath. He was an Oxford boy. As I say, he was actually in Moscow and saw the production, the original production of The Seagull, and thought it was wonderful. Apparently, he gave a lot of the cast the most awful time in rehearsing it, because he was pushing always to keep that conversation and naturalism and not letting them get carried away. He talks about English theatre at that time. Everybody was so concerned with making big an impression. There was a sort of unwritten law in the theatre: when a character spoke, everybody else would stop what they're doing and let them do it. And that doesn't work with Chekhov. It's people conversing over tea, and you have to have that naturalism in it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just get over who's doing what in this. We have oh God, Medvenko. How is that? How should that?
Medvedenko?
Medvedenko.
Yes.
Medvenko.
Medvedenko.
Medvedenko.
No, it's just Medvenko.
Medvenko.
Medvenko. Okay.
Medvenko. Okay, so Virginia, you're doing.
It depends how it's translated from Cynthia, from English to Russian. This translation talks about it as Medvedenko. The version that Paul put down was Medvenko. So
Yeah. So okay. All right, and Cynthia.
Yes, I'm Dorn.
Great. And Angus is
I'm Soren.
okay. And Denise.
Adlina.
Okay. And I think I may also need you to do Nina as well at the end, if that's okay.
Oh, go for Nina. Oh. Oh.
And Jennifer.
I'm doing Masha.
Okay. And Jackie. Yeah.
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit.
Yeah.
And Ken, you're doing Trigorin, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And so.
Yes. Did we do Cherry Orchard already?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I have to say that.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I have to say that one of the most wonderful productions I saw was Ian Rickson's production that came over from the UK, with Kirsten Scott Thomas playing the lead, with Zoe Kazan playing Marcia, and it was absolutely, and Kerry Mulligan playing Marcia, absolutely wonderful. The only problem with it was Chetwin Ejiofor had played Trigorin in the UK, and he was changed for Sarsgaard, Peter Sarsgaard, who was quite dreadful. But the rest of it was brilliant.
Yeah, I read about
He
that.
was dreadful in Hamlet when I saw his Hamlet.
Yeah. Well, the awful version of Uncle Vanya that I saw at Classic Stage, he might have played Vanya, and again he was awful. He's great in movies, but don't let him on the stage, for God's sake.
No, I think he was the doctor in that.
Oh, okay.
Austin directed that.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, and Pendleton also directed his Hamlet,
Yeah.
oh, Pendleton's incompetent.
which was the first time he had ever done any Shakespeare at all.
All righty then. Well, let's get to our why don't we get through Act 4
Okay.
of the Seagull, and then we can share our opinions on.
Then I can badmouth Penny.
He's very good at the poet in Night of the Iguana. I saw it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, he's a good
over-
actor. He's a good actor, but he sucks as his director.
Okay.
I saw that Hamlet, and he had directed it with that table on the stage, so that if you were sitting in the middle of the audience, you couldn't really see what was going on. A very important scene, and you couldn't really see it because of how he directed it. His staging's bad.
Concept directing.
Sometimes he's great. Sometimes his staging sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's get on with this, and I guess I will do Konstantin Treplev since everybody. So, anyways,
I'm going to take off, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Bye, Kitty.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye, Kitty.
Hi, Kitty.
I didn't give her any.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us, Kitty. Okay. So, anyways, back to this. The Seagull by Anton Chekhov, from the translation by George Calderon. Act 4. One of the drawing rooms in Soren's house, converted by Constantine into a study. Doors right and left, a glass door in the back on the veranda. Besides usual drawing room furniture, a writing table stands upright, a Turkish divan by the door left, bookcase, books on window sills and chairs. Evening, twilight, one lamp alight, shade. The wind howls in the streets and chimneys. Watchman beats a board outside as he passes. Enter Medvedenko and Masha.
Konstantin Gavrilovich. Konstantin Gavrilovich. There's no one here. The old man keeps asking every minute, where's Konstantin? Where's Konstantin? Can't live without him.
He's afraid of solitude. What a fearful storm. It's been like this for 2 whole days.
There are waves on the lake, great big ones.
How dark it is in the garden. They ought to have that stage in the garden pulled down. It stands all bare and ugly like a skeleton, and the curtain flaps in the wind. As I came by yesterday evening, I thought I heard someone crying there.
Did you?
Let's go home, Masha.
I shall stay the night here.
Come home, Masha. Our baby must be starving.
Rubbish. Matrona will feed it.
Poor little beggar. 3 nights away from its mother.
A bore you are. In the old days you used at any rate to philosophize, but now it's always baby, baby, home, home. Can't you find anything new to say?
Let's go, Masha.
Go yourself.
Your father won't let me have a horse.
Yes, he will. You ask him, he'll let you have one fast enough.
Well, I'll try. Then you'll come tomorrow?
All right. Can't you leave me alone?
Enter Treplev carrying pillows and blankets, and Paulina with sheets. They put them on the Turkish divan, and Treplev goes and sits at the writing table.
What's this about, Mother?
Monsieur Sorin wants his bed made in Constantine's room.
I'll help.
Old folks are just like children.
Well, I'll be off. Goodbye, Masha. Goodbye, Mother.
There, go along, go. Do.
Goodbye, Konstantin Gavrilovich.
Nobody ever imagined that you would become a real writer, Constantine. But now, thank heavens, the magazines send you money for your stories. And you've grown so handsome, dear good Constantine. Try and be kinder to Masha.
You leave him alone, Mother.
Oh, she's such a dear. All that a woman can ask, Constantine, is to be looked at kindly. I know it myself.
Constantine rises and leaves the room silently.
Now you've made him angry. Why can't you leave him alone?
I'm so sorry for you, Masha.
No need, thank you.
My heart aches again for you. I see it all. I understand it all.
Bah. Hopeless love only exists in novels. Rubbish. One only has to keep oneself in hand and not to sit waiting and waiting for what can never come. If love strikes root in one's heart, one must turn it out. No, they promised to transfer us, to another district. Once we get there, I shall forget everything. I will tear it out by the roots.
Melancholy Waltz is played 2 rooms away.
There's Constantine playing. That means he's unhappy.
The chief thing is not to have him always before one's eyes. If only they will transfer my Simeon. Once we're there, I shall forget him in a month. This is all fiddlesticks.
Enter Dorn and Medvedenko left wheeling Soren in a chair.
I have 6 months in the house to feed, 6 mouths in the house to feed now. And flowers 4 and 6 pence a hundredweight.
You won't get much change out of that.
It's all very well for you to laugh. You're rolling in money.
Rolling in money? After 30 years of practice, my dear fellow. 30 years of practice during which I could never call my soul my own day or night. All that I managed to scrape together was 200 pounds, and that I spent when I went abroad just lately. I haven't a farthing.
So you've not gone yet?
How can I if they won't let me have a horse?
I wish my eyes might never light on you again.
Why, what a lot of changes you've been making. You turned the drawing room into a study.
It's more convenient for Konstantin Gavrilovich to work here. When he feels inclined, he can go out into the garden to think.
The watchman beats his board outside.
Soren. Where's Soren?
Where's Irina?
Gone to the station to meet Trigorin. She'll be back immediately.
Oh, if you thought it necessary to send for my sister to come, I must be dangerously ill. Oh, it's too bad. Here I am dangerously ill and nobody will give me any medicine.
Well, what medicine do you want? Valerian drops? Soda? Quinine?
Oh, more philosophy, I suppose. Simply the devil. Oh, is that laid for me?
Oh, yes, it's for you, Peter Nikolaevich.
Many thanks.
The moon swims by in the clouds of night.
I shall give Constantine a subject for a story. It's to be called The Man Who Wanted to, L'homme qui a voulu. When I was a young man, I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't become one. I wanted to be a good speaker, and I was a vile one. And, so to speak, as I was saying, and my perorations that went on till one was bathed in perspiration. I wanted to marry and remained a bachelor. I wanted to live and die in town. Here I am ending my days in the country and all the rest of it.
You wanted to be an actual state councillor, and you were.
Oh, I never tried for that. Came of its own accord.
To express dissatisfaction with life at 62, you must confess is ungenerous.
Well, what a pig-headed fellow you are. Don't you understand? I want to live.
That's frivolous. By the laws of nature, every life must come to an end.
You talk as a man who's had his fill. You're sated and therefore indifferent to life. It's all the same to you. But even you will be afraid of death.
The fear of death is an animal fear. One ought to repress it. The only people who are consciously afraid of death are those who believe in eternal life. They are frightened by the knowledge of their sins. But you, in the first place, you're an unbeliever. And then the second, what sins can you have on your mind? You served 25 years in the law courts, nothing more.
28.
Enter Treplev and sits on a footstool at Soren's feet. Masha cannot keep her eyes off him.
We are preventing Konstantin Gavrilovich from working.
No, it's all right.
Allow me to ask you, Doctor, what town pleased you most abroad?
Genoa.
Why, Genoa?
The crowd in the streets is so charming in Genoa. If you go out from your hotel in the evening, you find the whole street overflowing with people. You go about aimlessly in the crowd, zigzagging to and fro. You live with its life. You fuse your individuality with it, and you begin to believe that a universal spirit is really possible, like the one that Nina Zarechnaya once acted in your play. By the by, where is Nina Zarechnaya? How's she getting on?
She's quite well, I imagine.
I was told she was living some curious sort of life. What was it?
It's a long story, Doctor.
Well, make it a short one.
She ran away from home and went to Trigorin, that you know.
Yes, I know.
She had a baby. The baby died. Trigorin got tired of her and went back to his old ties, as one might have expected. Besides, he never gave up his old ties, but, like the backboneless creature he is, managed to carry on with both at the same time. As far as I can make out from what I've heard, Nina's private life has been disastrous.
And on the stage?
Still worse, I should say. She came out first at a summer theater near Moscow, and then went off to the provinces. I kept her in sight for some time, and following her wherever she went. She was always trying to do big parts, but acted crudely and inartistically, mouthing her words and making awkward gestures. There were moments when she showed some talent in screaming and dying, but they were only moments.
Still, you think she has some gift of it for it?
It was hard to make out. I should think so, certainly. I saw her, but she refused to see me, and the servants wouldn't let me into her rooms. I understood her mood and did not insist on an interview. What else is there to tell you? Afterwards, when I got back home, I used to get letters from her. Nice, friendly, interesting letters. She didn't complain, but I could see that she was profoundly unhappy. In every line, one felt her strained and tortured nerves. Her imagination was a little disordered. She signed herself Seagull. In Rusalka, the miller says he is a raven, so she said in her letters that she was a seagull. And now she's here.
How do you mean, here?
Down in the town, at the inn. She's been in rooms there 5 or 6 days. I drove in the hope of seeing her. Maria Ilichnaya went too, but she won't see anyone. Medvedenko declares he saw her crossing the fields yesterday afternoon, a mile and a half from here.
Yes, I saw her. She was going the other way toward the town. I took off my hat and asked why she didn't come and stay with us. She said she would.
She won't. Her father and stepmother refuse to know her. They've put watchmen everywhere to prevent her even getting near the grounds. How easy it is to be a philosopher on paper, Doctor, and how hard it is in real life.
Oh, what a charming girl she was.
Eh? What?
So, what a charming girl she was. His Excellency, Councillor Sorin, was in love with her for a time.
Old Don Juan.
It sounds as if they were back from the station.
Yes, I can hear, Mother. Sir Arkadina and Trigorin Shamrayev following. Oh, do we not have a Shamrayev? We all grow old and battered under the influence of the elements, but you, dear lady, are as young as ever with your lovely frocks, such life, such grace.
You want to bewitch me with praise again, you tiresome man.
Trigorin, how do you do? Ken, Trigorin, how do you do?
Oh, 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 I'm waiting for Arkadina's line.
You want to bewitch me with praise again, you tiresome man.
How do you do? How do you do, Peter? Yeah. How do you do, Peter Nikolaevich? What do you mean by being ill? It's very wrong with you. Maria Ilyinichna.
Not forgotten me?
Married?
Married?
Long ago.
Happy? Irina Nikolaevna said that you had overlooked the past and forgiven me.
Grigorin has brought the magazine with your new story.
Many thanks. You're very kind.
Your must say there is people in Moscow and St. Petersburg are interested in you. I'm always being asked about you. They want to know what you look like, how old you are, dark or fair. For some reason or other, they all imagine that you're no longer young. And nobody knows your real name, of course, as you write on de plume. You're a mystery, like the man in the iron mask.
Have you come for long?
No, I mean to go to Moscow tomorrow. I can't stop. I'm trying to get a novel finished, and then I go to write something for an annual. In fact, it's the old story.
While they're talking, Arkina and Paul.
So, the weather welcomes me here in the most inhospitable manner.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that there's a delay with me. I'm sorry about that. In the most inhospitable manner. It's a cruel wind. Tomorrow morning, if it goes down, I shall go and fish in the lake. And I want to look around the garden and see the place where your play was acted. You remember? I've got a story ready for writing. I want to refresh my memory as to the scene of action.
Papa, will you let Simi have a horse? He's got to go home.
A horse go home? Didn't you see for yourself? The horses have just been to the station. They can't go out again.
But they're not the only ones. You're all more trouble than you're worth.
I'll do it on foot, Masha. It's all right.
On foot in weather like this? No, come along, everyone. Come on. Come.
It's not more than 4 miles. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mother. I wouldn't have troubled anyone, only the baby. Goodbye.
Exits with a guilty air. He'll get there right enough. He's not a general.
Now then, come along. Don't let's waste time. They'll be calling us to supper very, very soon.
Shamraev, Masha, and Dorn sit at the card table.
When the long autumn evenings begin, we always play lotto here. Just look, the old lotto set that we used to play with Mother when we were children. Won't you have a game with us till supper time? It is a tedious game, but it's all right when you're used to it.
He's read his own story and hasn't even cut mine.
Aren't you coming, Constantine?
No, thanks. I don't feel like it. I'm going for a turn around the house.
The steaks are tuppence. Put in for me, Doctor.
Very good, Mum. Very good, Mum.
Everybody put in? I begin 22.
Yes.
3.
Here you are.
Have you marked 3? 8.
Hmm.
81. 10.
Not so quick.
Such a reception I had at Kharkov. Saints in heaven, my head still goes round with it.
34.
Melancholy waltz behind the scenes.
Students gave me quite an ovation. 3 baskets of flowers, 2 bouquets, and look at that.
Why, that's no end of a...
50.
5. Oh,
I was
5.
wearing
Oh, I can't get my words
I
out.
was wearing a charming frock. My frocks are one of my strong points.
Do you hear, Constantine? Oh, he's unhappy, poor lamb.
They abuse him a good deal in the papers.
77.
Who cares for the papers?
He has no luck. He can't somehow get into his natural stride. There's always something queer and vague about it, almost like delirium at times. Never a single living character.
11.
Are you bored, Peter? He's asleep.
The actual state councilor is asleep.
7. 90.
Trigor?
His sound doesn't seem to be coming through.
I'll
Oh.
read the lines. Is he coming through? If
I-
I lived in a country house like this, Trigorn,
If I lived in a country house like this by a lake, do you think I would ever write another line? I would conquer the passion and spend my whole time fishing.
28.
To catch a rook or a perch. What bliss.
For my part, I believe in Constantine. He'll do something. He'll do something. He thinks in pictures. His stories are bright and full of color. I feel them very deeply. It's a pity only that he has no definite purpose before his eyes. He produces an impression, and there he stops. Producing impressions won't take you very far. Are you glad you've a son who is a writer, Irina Nikolaevna?
Fancy, I've never read a line of his. I never have time.
26.
Enter Treplev quietly. He goes to his table. We've still got that thing of yours, Boris Alexeyevich.
What thing?
Konstantin Gavrilovich shot a seagull one day, and you asked me to have it stuffed for you.
Did I? Oh, I don't remember.
Hmm.
56. 1.
How dark it is. I wonder why I feel so uneasy.
Shut the window, dear. It makes a draft.
88.
I've won.
Well done.
Bravo!
Gorn is always lucky wherever he goes. And now let's go and get something to eat. The eminent novelist has had no dinner today. We'll go on after supper. Constantine, put your writing away and come to supper.
I don't want anything. Thanks, Mother. I'm not hungry.
As you please. Supper time, Peter. I will tell you all about my reception at Kharkov.
Pauline puts out the candles on the card table and Dorn wheels Soren's chair. Exeunt omnes, leaving Treplev alone at his writing table. Preparing to write, reads through what he's already written. I've talked so much about new forms, and now I feel that I'm slipping back little by little into the old cliches. The placard on the hoarding informed the public. Her pale face framed in masses of dark hair. Informed the public? Framed in masses? How cheap! I'll begin with the hero being woken by the sound of the rain and throw the rest overboard. The description of the moonlight is tedious and artificial. Trigorin has worked out a method for it's easy for him. The neck of a broken bottle glimmering on the mill dam and the black shadow of the water wheel, and there's your moonlight on the night complete. But here I am with my tremulous rays and the twinkling stars and distant sounds of a piano fainting on the perfumed air. It's frightful. Yes, I'm coming more and more to the conclusion that it doesn't matter whether the forms are new or old. A man's got to write without thinking of form at all, just because it flows naturally out of his soul. Someone knocks at the window by the table. Oh, what's that? I don't see anything. Someone ran down the stairs. Who's there? Goes on the walk quickly along the veranda outside, returns a moment with Nina Zerknaeva. Nina! Nina! Nina, Nina, is it you? Is it you? I had sort of a presentiment all day, and my heart has been in anguish. Oh, my dearest, my loveliest, she's come at last. We mustn't cry. We mustn't cry.
Is there anyone here?
No one. Lock the door.
Lock the door. They may come in.
Oh. No one will come in.
I know that Irina Nikolaevna is here. Lock the door.
There's no lock on this one. I'll put the chair against it. Don't be afraid. No one will come in.
Let me look at you. How warm and cozy. This used to be the drawing room. Am I much changed?
Oh, yes. You're thinner and your eyes are bigger. Nina, how strange it is to see you at last. Why would you not let me in when I visited you? Why have you not come before? I know you've been here nearly a week. I've been to the inn several times every day and stood under your window like a beggar.
I was afraid you must hate me. I dream every night that you look at me and do not recognize me. If only you knew. Every day since I came, I've been walking up here by the lake. I've been so often near the house, but did not dare come in. Let's sit down. Let's sit here and talk and talk. How pleasant it is here. How warm, how comfortable. Do you hear the wind? There's a passage in Turgenev. Blessed is he who sits beneath a roof on such a night in his own comfortable corner. I am a seagull. No, that's wrong. What was I saying? Yes, Turgenev. And the Lord help all homeless wanderers. I'm all right.
Nina, you're crying again. Nina.
I'm all right. I feel better for it. I haven't cried for 2 years. Yesterday evening, I came into the garden to see if our stage was still standing. It's still there. I cried for the first time in 2 years and felt relieved and easier in my mind. See? I'm not crying anymore. So, you've become a writer. You're a writer, and I'm an actress. We're both caught up in the vortex. Once I lived so happily with a child's happiness. I would wake of a morning and sing with glee. I loved you and dreamed of fame, and now, early morning, I must travel to Yelens, 3rd class, with the peasants, and at Yelens, I shall have to put up with the attentions of the educated shopkeepers. How brutal life is.
Why, Yelens?
I've accepted an engagement for the whole winter. I must start tomorrow.
Oh, Nina, I cursed you and hated you at first. I tore up your letters and your photographs, but all the time I knew that my heart was bound to you forever. Try as I may, I cannot cease loving you, Nina. Ever since I lost you and began to get my stories printed, my life has been intolerable. How I have suffered. My youth was snatched from me, as it were, and I feel as if I had lived for 90 years. I call to you. I kiss the ground where you have passed. Wherever I look, I see your face with that caressing smile which shone upon me in the best years of my life.
But why is he saying that?
I am alone in the world, unwarmed by any affection. It chills me like a dungeon, and whatever I write is hollow, dull, and gloomy. Stay here, Nina. I beseech you, or let me come away with you. Nina, why are you doing that? For God's sakes, Nina.
My trap is at the garden gate. Don't come and see me out. I'll manage all right. Give me some water?
Where are you going to?
Back to the town. Is Irina Nikolaevna here?
Yes, Uncle Peter was taken ill on Thursday. We wired for her to come.
Why do you say you kissed the ground where I had walked? You ought to kill me. I am so tired. If I could only rest. If I could only rest. I am a seagull. No, that's wrong. I'm an actress. Yes. Yes. Oh, so he's here too. Oh, yes. I'm all right. He didn't believe in the stage. He always laughed at my ambitions. Little by little, I came not to believe in it either. I lost heart. And then on top of the anxieties of love, jealousy, perpetual fear for the child, became trivial and commonplace. I acted without meaning. I did not know what to do with my hands or how to stand on the stage. I had no control over my voice. You can't imagine how you feel when you know you are acting atrociously. I'm a seagull. No, that's wrong. Do you remember you shot a seagull? A man comes along by chance and sees her, and just to amuse himself, ruins her. Subject for a short story. No, that's not it. What was I talking about? About acting. I'm not like that now. I'm a real actress now. When I act, I rejoice. I delight in it. I am intoxicated and feel that I am splendid. Since I got here, I've been walking all the time and thinking and feeling how my inner strength grows day by day. And now I see at last, Constantine, that in our sort of work, whether we are actors or writers, the chief thing is not fame or glory, not what I dreamed of, but the gift of patience. One must bear one's cross and have faith. My faith makes me suffer less. And when I think of my vocation, I am no longer afraid of life.
You have found your road. You know where you are going. I am still adrift in a welter of images and dreams, and I cannot tell what use it is. All it is to anyone. I have no faith, and I do not know what my vocation is.
I'm going. Goodbye. When I'm a great actress, come and see me act. You promise? And now? It's late. I can hardly stand up. I'm so tired and hungry.
Stay here. I'll get you some supper.
No, don't see me out. I can find my way. The trap is quite near. So she brought him here with her? Well, it's all one. When you see Trigorin, don't tell him I've been. I love him. Yes, I love him more than ever. Subject for a short story. I love him. I love him passionately, desperately. How pleasant it was in the old days, Constantine. You remember? How clear and warm, how joyful and how pure our life was, and our feelings. And they were like the sweetest, daintiest flowers. You remember? Men and lions, eagles and partridges, antlered deer, geese, spiders, the silent fishes dwelling in the water, starfish, and tiny creatures invisible to the eye. These and every form of life, aye, every form of life, have ended their melancholy round and become extinct. Thousands of centuries have passed since this earth bore any living being on its bosom. All in vain does yon pale moon light her lamp. No longed do the cranes walk and cry in the meadows. The hum of the cockafers is silent in the linden groves.
I hope nobody will meet her in the garden and tell Mother. Mother might be annoyed. For 2 minutes he silently tears up all his manuscripts and throws them under the table. Then he unlocks the door right and exits.
Funny. It seems to be locked. Obstacle race.
Put the claret and beer here on the table for Boris Alexeyevich. We'll drink while we play. Now, come along and sit down, all of you.
And breathe tea at once.
Ah, there's the thing I was talking of. You asked to have it done.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember.
A report of a pistol behind the scenes. Everyone starts.
What's that?
It's all right. I expect something's busted in my traveling medicine chest. Don't be alarmed. As I expected, my other bottles burst. Once more before the love.
Heavens, I was quite frightened. It reminded me of the time when I feel quite faint.
There was an article in this paper a month or two ago, a letter from America, and I wanted to ask you, among other things. I'm very much interested in the question. Get Irina Nikolaevna away from here. The fact is, Konstantin has shot himself.
Curtain. Ah, wow. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
That was
Thank
great. Love that.
Wonderful work.
Super.
Wonderful work, Denise. It's such
Thank
a
you.
hot piece.
Love
Yeah.
your Nina, Denise. Loved your Nina.
Yeah, that was great. And I really liked it's so funny. There was just a few things where like formulae, I had to say forms other than
Yeah.
changing, but yeah, this is a very, very good translation, and that was really terrific, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is. It is a when you consider that this was the first translation that Britain had ever seen.
Mhm.
But people don't use contractions. I didn't like the translation at all. Thought it was very stilted.
Yeah, no,
Well, I mean, he knows what he was doing. He was a Russian scholar as well
You
as
can't use the
a
others.
director and producer and actor.
I mean, there were a few things that did sort of feel somewhat awkward and thing, and also to think about, yeah, it's a good sort of way to sort of get a sense of like how the language, how our English usage has changed from like this was 110 years ago, and
Yeah, I mean,
there's
he was
that.
writing this in 1907, 1908, production in 1909.
But yeah, that was but yeah, he's such a it is it's such a heartbreaking play. And I don't know, I haven't I don't think I've ever read Treplev and just sort of doing that. It's like, yeah, of course he goes off and shoots himself. My God. Oh, that is such an amazing scene.
The speeches are wonderful in that. Really wonderful. Between the two of them. It's really
Apparently, that when he was directing it at Glasgow, he gave the Nina a hell of a hard time. He was on her from beginning to end to bring her down so that she's not doing a great, huge, melodramatic angst, hair tearing, breast beating thing. But it was more the inevitability of where she was.
Well, that needs to be like she's trying to be an actress, but she's also trying to be her, but she's trying to show how her feelings in the theater. That's a hard part. You could probably have to mesh it. Who you are at the
I don't know
moment
if you
and how you're
noticed
showing yourself off. She's showing off too to some degree.
If you notice,
I love him. I love him. She's being theatrical, I think.
The note at the bottom where she says she's going to some particular Russian town, and he adds the explanation and says that where she's going, it's a bit like doing a production in Norwich or Shrewsbury, which is the equivalent of going to Peoria, doing a production.
Right.
It's whether hard and tough, and it's the way where plays fail before they get to Broadway,
Yeah. Well, but it's such a sort of, just talking, because you have these with Nina.
Yes, it's called a comedy, isn't it?
Oh, it was hilarious. That was hilarious.
That's a terrible thing she does to Trigorin, though. She seemed to Treplov. It's like she seems to to knowing that he's so pained about her, and then laying this crap on him about you have to think on that as if she wants him to stop loving her.
Well, Constantine was in love with her, and she never responded. There's that wonderful line early on when I came. They have to remove that stage; it's all falling apart. When I came past this morning, I thought I heard someone crying, and just walks on. But that's the key, that Masha has been there, remembering the famous speech.
Nina,
and has done the famous or that early part, and she's just sitting in the old theater where they had their start, crying to herself. God, it's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But you must never let yourself get sucked into that heaviness. It all has to be fatalistic.
And that's what's so great. That's why I think it is a comedy, is for Nina, she's found her path forward. And that's what Trepliev says. You found your way. You can do it. Even though the fact that it's sort of like externally in a little bit, they're starting to talk about Constantine and stuff, but he doesn't feel like his work is good. And he doesn't feel comfortable in the way she's doing it. And I just love as an actor, just the sort of thing, I didn't know what to do with my hands, because that's something as an actor constantly. At some point, that's always comes up, So
people keep on saying Chekhov called them comedies. I have seen it said elsewhere that he didn't call them comedies, that a more accurate translation of the word he used in Russian is a vaudeville, which is an entirely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's funny, but it's more about life.
Yeah, well, and he didn't. I'm talking about Seagull and Cherry Orchard were the ones that in most of the things are called comedies, or vaudeville is probably a more accurate description. But like Vanya's described as country life, and Three Sisters is described as a drama, because you can't get in any sort of comedy ending out of the end of Three Sisters.
No.
The rep did the Seagull. The first three acts were really funny. People were slipping on stage and falling and that sort of thing. And then the fourth act was absolutely straight, very mournful. Nina comes on dressed like a punk rocker. It was really good.
Where was that, Steve?
I'm in Providence. Is it the Trinity Rep in Providence?
Oh, Trinity Rep. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're good.
Calderon
says at one point in his prefaces that if you want to learn about Chekhov, don't touch the cherry orchard until you've gone through the Seagull.
Okay. All right.
The Seagull is more suited to what theatre is now, but the Cherry Orchard is much, much more complex.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Denise, so much for joining us. So,
Hey,
I have to leave too. Goodbye.
Great
okay.
meeting all of you. I
good to
gotta,
see you again,
I
Steve.
gotta go pick up
End
something.
the live stream here then. So thank you all very
Hey,
much.
Paul, keep in touch with me. I want to talk to you about what I want to
Yeah,
do.
well, I'm just gonna, we can just keep